joining.
Hare Krishna, Pavitra Madhvi Mataji, all Guru Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all Guru Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Pavitra Madhavi Mataji, Dandavat Pranams, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Pavitra Madhvi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev, Vijay Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Vanda Gopika Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji. So is there anyone else who wants to introduce?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam. All goes to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Lavanya from Dallas.
Hare Krishna, Lavanya Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All goes to Prabhupada, all goes to Guru Maharaj, all goes to Assembled devotee. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is Radha Damodar Das and Atma Maya from Austin, Texas. Please accept our obeisances. All goes to Guru Maharaj, all goes to Sri Prabhupada, all goes to all the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Damodar Prabhuji and Atmaya Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Gurudev ki Jai. This is Radha from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranams to you and all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudev. This is Lalitangi Radha Devi Dasi.
Hare Krishna, Lalitangi Radha Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Sita Devidasi from Dallas.
Hare Krishna, Sita Priti Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Go ahead, Mataji.
Go ahead, Mataji. Okay. Hare Krishna, Pavitra Madhavi Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. This is Vrinda from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Vrinda Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Pavitra Madhavi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Guru Maharaj ki Jai. This is Shyama Gauri Dasi from Charlotte.
Hare Krishna, Shyama Gauri Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. This is Dinabandhu Gurudas and Lalita Devi Dasi from Sandy Ridge.
Hare Krishna, Dinabandhu Prabhuji and Lalita Mataji, Dhanvat Pranam, all goes to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining.
Hare Krishna.
So is there anyone else?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. All glories to the assembled devotees. This is Sangeeta from Dallas.
Hare Krishna, Sangeeta Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. Thank you so much for joining, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Mataji.
Maharaj has not joined yet.
Okay,
Wait.
so we can wait.
Yeah. Chaya Mataji, are you there? I don't see her. No. We can continue our chanting.
Yeah, sure, Mataji.
Or anybody else can read the verse. Like anybody wants to read, they can read the verse. Because it's a long purport today. So it will take time. Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to read the verse?
Shall I read, Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Mataji. We can start the record.
Okay, Mataji. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. I welcome everyone. So today we are very fortunate to have His Holiness Chandramauli Maharaj to enlighten us on Srimad Bhagavatam. So yes, Maharaj is joining in a few minutes. So meanwhile, we can read the verse. So Mataji, please go ahead.
Okay, Mataji. Srimad Bhagavatam 4.28.51. Tatra purvatara kaschet sakha brahmana atmavan santvayan valguna samna tamaha rudatim prabho. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. My dear king, one Brahman who was an old friend of King Puranjan came to that place and began to pacify the queen with sweet words. Purport. I think Maharaj has joined. Shall I still continue, Mataji?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Is it okay, Maharaj, if that Mataji reads the verse, the purport?
Did she start yet?
Yeah, she started.
Yeah, finish.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you. Purport. The appearance of an old friend in the form of a Brahmana is very significant. In his Paramatma feature, Krishna is the old friend of everyone. According to Vedic injunction, Krishna is sitting with the living entity side by side. According to the Shruti mantra, Suparna Sayuja Sakhyaha, the Lord is sitting within the heart of every living entity as Surut, the best friend. The Lord is always eager to have the living entity come home back to Godhead. Sitting with the living entity as witness, the Lord gives him all chances to enjoy himself materially, but whenever there is an opportunity, the Lord gives good counsel and advises the living entity to abandon trying to become happy through material adjustment and instead turn his face toward the Supreme Personality of Godhead and surrender unto him. When one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As explained before, this means meeting the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the instruction of the spiritual master. This is technically called Vani Seva. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur states in the Bhagavad Gita commentary on the verse Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Ekeha Kurunandana, Bhagavad Gita 2.41, that one should serve the words of the spiritual master. In the The disciple must stick to whatever the spiritual master orders. Simply by following on the line, one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Paramatma, appeared before the queen as Brahman. But why didn't he appear in his original form as Sri Krishna? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks that unless one is very highly elevated in loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles in loving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot see him as he is. Okay. Nonetheless, if one sticks to the principles enunciated by the spiritual master, somehow or other, he is in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the Lord is in the heart, he cannot advise a sincere disciple from within. He can advise a sincere disciple from within. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajantam pritipurvakam tadati buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayant.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, yes.
Did you finish?
It's still there. I still have to read some more, Maharaj.
It's a long purport. You can stop there.
Okay, Maharaj. Okay, Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Yeah. Again, Timidandasya Gnanajana Salakaya Chaksunamitam Yena Asmai Shri Gurave Maha Ma'om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachari Nayamshisa Sunyavadi Astyatya Desatarane Panchakalpa Tarubhasya Kripasindu Vevaja Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is an analogy spoken by Narada Muni to King Vachinabarisha, who he is talking about, but the king doesn't know it. The king is thinking that he's narrating a story, but he's using these different analogical points to really point out the king's particular position in life. The problem is the king forgot what is actually the goal of life. Although very expert in fruitive activities and offering the results in fruitive activities as a service, he misses the real, what we say, purpose of life, and that is to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotion. Narada Muni he knows he can't speak to the king directly. Sometimes we find that situation in our own experiences. People are not able to accept what is being said directly, so using analogy or inferences, historical stories, a point is being made, but it's being directed at the audience. So the audience, although he's talking in the third person, not appearing to speak about to the audience, but about something. Those who are intelligent can make the connection, but those who sometimes don't want to hear have to hear it in a more or less direct way. Hopefully they will get the message. Here the storyline is that this queen, she is the intelligence, and she is now has lost her husband, the king, who actually is the, I think, I can't remember the analogy because I haven't read it in a long time, but I think the king represents soul. And the king is no longer present, and therefore the queen wants to follow him. But then the old friend comes. Who's the old friend? He comes in a disguise as a friend, but reminds the queen that I'm your actual friend. The intelligence of the living entity takes shelter of the material arrangements that they make in order to find happiness in this world. And the mind follows along. The mind and the intelligence are two features of the living entity's either practice of Krishna consciousness or diversion away from Krishna consciousness. When the intelligence is clear and directs the mind directs the senses, and then everything is directed towards the goal of life, which is to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in loving devotional service. When the intelligence becomes polluted by desires to find happiness through rearranging the material energy, this is what the intelligence does. Living entities' attachment to this world is understood in two features of itself. Both are the same, but both are seen in a different way. And that is the desire to control, the desire to enjoy. The principle is to enjoy, which is the natural proclivity and natural principle of existence, is to find happiness. But in the material world, because the living entity struggles to find happiness, the enjoying principle is supported by the controlling principle. And the controlling principle tries to arrange the material energy in different ways in order to facilitate enjoyment through that arrangement. And this is a constant feature, that the intelligence is always dictating to the mind how the arrangement should be made. Or sometimes the mind actually contacts the intelligence and asks the intelligence to make the arrangements so I can enjoy. So both of these persons, which are actually non-different, the intelligence is a feature of the mind, but it's a discriminating feature of the mind. It's the factor which chooses which way the mind will go. When the intelligence is lost, then the mind goes whatever way it feels. And therefore the mind is what we say. You can say it's a mad mind. It simply goes on feelings because the mind has no direction in and of itself unless it takes directions from the intelligence. And the intelligence is discriminating on how to enjoy. That's material intelligence. So here, the old friend comes, and he comes in a disguise as a Brahmana. Who is that old friend? It's the Lord within the heart. And here, the Lord is called Surit, the best friend, because in Vedic terminology, there are three categories of friends. There is Mitra, Bandha, and Suhit. One is official friend, a friend that you may just occasionally meet from time to time. You don't have a real deep relationship, but it's more like an acquaintance. And then there's Bandhu, I think, which means more like a material friend, a friend who you associate with. And then you have Suhit. Suhit is actually Krishna. No one else can take that place of Surit. Surit is the best friend. And what is the characteristics of the best friend? Knows what their friend needs and knows how to provide that. So Krishna is called Suhit, just like he says in the Bhagavad Gita, Suhidam Sarvabhutanam. I am Suridam Sarvabhutanam. I am the friend of all living entities, the best friend, like that. Well, this best friend appears, and in our life constantly, the best friend stays with us, never leaves us, is always with us. In this world, any relationships we have are temporary or more temporary, but never consistent or constant. We meet people, we meet other living entities, and we develop some relationships with them. We develop some friendships with them. We just develop some arrangements to fulfill our needs through this particular living entity. Sometimes they come in the form of husband, wife, children, boss, the local people who are in the neighborhood, or you can go through all the different categories of relationships that we may accept in this world and find that there are so many, but nothing is constant. But the constant relationship on the friendship level is with Krishna. Excuse me. Krishna is not only the friend, but the constant friend. And it says in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna is always speaking to his friend, who is the soul. And of course, the analogy is made here like two birds who are on the tree of the heart, and one bird is trying to enjoy the field of activities, which is the body and the senses. And the witnessing bird is Krishna. He's there within the heart, just watching. But he's not only just watching, he's also trying to attract the attention of his friend. And therefore, Krishna does many things to wake our attention to his presence within our heart. If we turn to him, he speaks. In fact, sometimes even when he doesn't, we don't even turn to him, he's still speaking, but we can't hear because we haven't turned towards him. Only when we turn to him, we can hear what he's actually saying. And what is he actually saying? He's guiding us in the best possible way. He's protecting us. He's providing for us. And he's actually bringing us back to his, where we can find the happiness we're looking for, but we're looking for it in the wrong place. We're looking for it in something temporary. And he's showing us where you can find it eternally. Of course, in the temporary realm of happiness, that goes on as happiness, but it's just a counteraction of misery, because material happiness is just somehow or other dealing with the struggles to live in this world. And if we get relief from that struggle, we call it happiness, like that. But real happiness or real pleasure is in devotional service with Krishna. It's not only lasting, but it's actually always expanding. In other words, it gets better and better. Now, this verse is interesting, and Prabhupada makes some really, what we say, profound statements, and how to find that happiness, because the Lord in the heart is actually representing the external manifestation of himself, known as the spiritual master. The spiritual master is another one of his titles, is called the external manifestation of Supersoul. So what God in the heart is telling us, or trying to tell us, the spiritual master appears as a representative of the Super Soul to guide us. And those are the instructions we need in order to come back to Krishna, like that in devotional service. So Prabhupada said, one must stick to the orders of the spiritual master. And simply by following carefully, strictly the instructions of the spiritual master, it says here, when one becomes serious to follow the mission of the spiritual master, his resolution is tantamount to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada says this statement other place, face to face, he adds these other words to it. So here's the key to success in spiritual life. Yasya Devi para bhaktir yata Devi tata guru tasyaita pratiteg yarta prakasanatma mahatmanaha. One who has not faith, but that faith that is not broken in any circumstance, in both Krishna and in the words of the spiritual master, then automatically the whole conclusion of all Vedic Shastras become available within the heart of that practitioner. In other words, they know the path of bhakti and they know how to achieve the success of by following that path. So, yeah, this is important that Prabhupada would sometimes say that one should have complete faith and complete what we say, obedience to the spiritual master. I mean, the word disciple comes from the word discipline, and discipline is the highest principle of relationship with the spiritual master. The spiritual master has to discipline the disciple by guiding disciple, by giving relevant instructions, philosophical knowledge, and practical guidance like that. These three things, or 3 points of knowledge, or 3 points of relationship with the spiritual master, are the essence of the relationship with the spiritual. He teaches us who is Krishna. He teaches us what is the path of bhakti and how to follow it. And he also gives us practical guidance on how to live in this world and practice Krishna consciousness. Yeah. Sometimes we find devotees remain distant from their spiritual master, or don't decide to ask the spiritual master the questions they need to ask. Sometimes they're either embarrassed, feel too shy, or feel like they're disturbing the spiritual master like that. These are just mental concoctions because the spiritual master's primary service is his disciples. He may preach and he may also do other forms of service, but his duty to Krishna is to guide those who follow him on the path of bhakti. So one should not be afraid to approach the spiritual master with relevant questions and difficulties that one may have in devotional service. Of course, we might also say, if one can find the solution without going to the spiritual master, then that is equally as good. But in so many cases, sometimes we need that authority. We need that complete knowledge. What is the position of the spiritual master? Now, just like someone asked Srila Prabhupada, do you know everything? And Prabhupada said, I am not Krishna, but I know what I need to know. In other words, he knows what he needs to know in order to do his service as Krishna's representative. But Krishna tells him that he guides his spiritual master or his representative in the form of a spiritual master by giving him the understanding on how to guide his disciples along the path of spiritual. Like that. So that's why sometimes my Srila Prabhupada would say, my spiritual master is wrong, but he's right. Because the spiritual master principle is that he can never be wrong for the disciple. Even if he apparently gives an instruction which is too hard to follow or may be seen as an error from a material point of view, it's not. It's a principle of keeping the disciple connected with the process and therefore enlightening the disciple like that. If one obeys the spiritual master and something apparently doesn't come out according to how one is expected, still that's perfection. That's perfection with that. But because the spiritual master is equipped with the mercy of the Lord, then we can have faith that he can guide me back home, back to Godhead. And therefore, his words are become, what as they say, the life and soul of the disciple. And when one starts to develop a deeper relationship with the spiritual master, and one can see and hear the spiritual master in every aspect of their life, even when the spiritual master is not present, through the material energy or in different ways, they can hear their spiritual master guiding them through different, avenues or different channels like that. So that is the relationship with the spiritual master. Here, so Prabhupada makes that point constantly here. So one who, and then Prabhupada says, just as far as material convenience is concerned, sometimes we like to make a lot of separate arrangements in order to improve our material life, but there's no need to do that. Through the process of bhakti, Krishna gives both the intelligence and the facilities to support whatever is needed in your life to become fully Krishna conscious. Sometimes we can make arrangements to increase the quality and quantity of our service, but we should never try to make big arrangements in order to improve the material situation. Because it's not necessary, it's a waste of time, and a lot of times it doesn't give us what we're looking for. Just like I meet people who approach me many times for something material, I say you just stay fixed in your devotional service, and you'll see Krishna will provide what you need in due course of time. Or if he doesn't provide it, that means you didn't need it. That requires faith. Okay, so these are some points we can think about in relationship to the spiritual master. Again, Prabhupada makes a point, the super soul appears when the devotee is impure in heart by following directions of the spiritual master. He doesn't say he becomes purified. He says his purity of heart is understood by his complete dedication to the instructions of the spiritual master. Chastity is considered to be the highest principle for a woman. A woman who is chaste, she's glorious. We have the example of Gandhari in the Mahabharata. Although very qualified, she purposely put cloth over her eyes so she could be the chaste wife of her husband, Dhritarashtra. And because of her chastity, she became so powerful like that. So Gandhari, and then we also have the wife of Ravana, Mandodari. Although he was a big demon, she was a dedicated wife in so many ways. We have Anasuya and I forgot her husband's name, Archie, maybe. Archie and Anasuya. We have so many, and then we have Sita Devi like that. Anasuya was so exalted in her chastity. She was considered the chaste of all women in history. That in the Ramayana, in one part of the Ramayana, I believe it's in the Tulsidas Ramayana, Sita Devi is getting instructions from Anasuya about the principles of chastity. Sita Devi, the wife of Lord Ramachandra, she is the goddess of fortune, Maha goddess of fortune. She's hearing from Anasuya what is the principles of chastity. So when a woman is chaste, she's glorious. So in the same way, when a disciple is chaste, he or she becomes the glorious representative of their spiritual master. And then the process of devotional service becomes, when we say, easily to follow. Of course, to develop that chastity requires a lot of attention and determination, because Maya, in the form of so many arrangements in this material world, will try to lure the devotee into trying to find enjoyment outside in material life. Therefore, not only remaining chaste, but praying to the spiritual master for the strength to follow the instructions and for the protection to be not to be influenced by material allurements, which are always coming in different forms. Okay, so I'll stop there and see if we have any questions.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful session. Thank you for
A little louder, please.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful session, Maharaj.
Just a little louder.
Can you hear me better now, Maharaj? Is this better?
It's a little better, but if you turn up the volume a little more, it'll be just right.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for the wonderful session. I really appreciate your explanation of how we should be, what chastity means, what are the various examples that we have seen from the past. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your presence. Please continue to give us your association, Maharaj. Hari Bol. Pavitra Madhavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji. Yeah, I am here. Yes, Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for giving a valuable association and wonderful instructions. So, yes, if no one has any question, so I would request devotees if they have any question or comments for Maharaj. Okay, if no one has any question or comments, then we can end here.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Yeah, I have a question, Mataji. Hare
Yes.
Krishna Maharaj, please accept our humble obeisances. Thank you so much for your very nectarian class. So, you were talking about the importance of a spiritual master, and some people, some devotees who have newly come, they are chanting 16 rounds. They're following for regulative principles for 1 or 2 years. But they are saying, when we ask them to take initiation, they are telling that it is a commitment, and what if I'm not able to do? Or they are telling the reasons that the family, it's hard to convince the parents and other people, so I want to bring them also, so it would take 3-4 years, but we would continue to chant and follow like this. So can you explain like how, what else we can tell them, and is it possible for someone to continue like that without initiation?
Well, if they feel like they're not ready for initiation, to continue practicing consciousness, that's fine. The only thing you could really tell them that would be helpful is that you should understand that someday you should come to the point of accepting initiation. You may not feel ready now, but if you continue and circumstances develop more, in other words, you become more fixed in your Krishna consciousness. Because bhakti has 9 stages, and the third stage is bhajana kriya. Bhajana kriya means shelter of the spiritual master. And bhajana kriya, or at least shelter of the spiritual master, is preliminary in the sense that one doesn't take initiation, but one aspires for a particular representative of the Lord. So you can also encourage them, well, maybe you're not ready for initiation, but find someone you can take shelter, and that way get guidance, work under the directions of that person. It's not required that you have to take initiation from that person, but the person who you feel, at least at this point in your practice, can inspire you in your Krishna consciousness. But if they can't even do that, then tell them just continue, chant, come to the programs, follow the principles. If you force someone to take initiation, then maybe later they regret it or can't follow it, and then that becomes a very big problem. So preliminary is testing the water, getting an idea what it's like. So maybe they need more time. But we should always remind them that the process means to come to that point eventually. Well, you may not be ready now. If we force someone, then it could also be bad for them and for us also. Because Prabhupada says now, and especially we're seeing a lot of people who do take initiation don't, after so many years, wind up giving up their initiation vows. They may still practice Krishna conscious, but they're not up to the standard anymore. So that means they weren't ready at the time of initiation. Because at the time of initiation, there's no turning back. So one had, just like one devotee came to Prabhupada and is explaining he can't follow his vows anymore, can't practice. Prabhupada said, well, why did you take initiation if you can't follow? In other words, it's almost like, you might say it's even more serious. When we take marriage vows also to stay in that relationship. So it's like that. It's even more important than that. It's not a small thing. It's not just some ceremony and then you feel good for a while, you're inspired, and then things change, circumstances change, and then you also give up. It's better to wait and be sure than to be a little bit presumptuous or impetuous and then find yourself, can't maintain what you promised at initiation. And that makes it difficult for both the individual and for the spiritual master.
Thank you, Maharaj. Would you like to share something about your initiation?
Well, when Prabhupada was on the planet, he was constantly traveling, going from place to place. And amongst the many projects that were going on in the world, there were senior sannyasis who were in charge. So Prabhupada gave them the facility, or you might say the position, to be able to recommend people for initiation. And those recommendations would go to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada would write a letter back giving the names. So many times, names were given by letter. Many times Prabhupada did initiations personally. So mine was by letter. That was in 1973. So you might say those who had Prabhupada's personal presence for initiation were a little more fortunate. But Prabhupada couldn't be every place at the same time, and his movement was growing. People were joining fast, and the different temples were growing. And so Prabhupada had to be at one place. He was traveling around, but many times he couldn't be every place. So therefore, he gave the power of giving initiation or making recommendations for the initiation by these senior devotees. And they were all sannyasis. Later, many of them became spiritual masters in ISKCON also. But Prabhupada always gave the principles of what is required to give recommendations. He didn't give them just, you can choose, but he said these are the requirements. And then if they fulfill the requirements, then you can offer, they can be recommended. Did you have personal initiation for your spiritual master? Were you there?
Yes, Maharaj.
That's good. Nowadays, it's easier because spiritual masters. And usually that's how it's done now, personal presence. But when Prabhupada was here, it just wasn't possible.
But you carry so much of his potency, and you have dedicated your life for him throughout. So definitely now it doesn't matter whether it's personal or letter, and we can see that you're his representative.
There are persons who never met Prabhupada, who never took initiation from Prabhupada, but understood Prabhupada was their spiritual master, who had such attraction and attachment. Sometimes Prabhupada would appear in people's dreams, or sometimes they would get a book of Srila Prabhupada, read the book, and become so attached to Prabhupada and become Prabhupada's disciple, even without ever meeting him. Even after he left the planet, it was like that. Of course, you have to connect with the disciplic succession, and that is the Vedic standard that we have to follow. But still, Prabhupada is everyone's Shiksha Guru.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your association.
Thank you. You deviated from the purport.
We want to, use this opportunity to learn more about, your relationship and your dedication. And one more question, but I saw one question in chat, so maybe you can take that. And if there is time, I can ask one more.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
Hare
see.
Krishna Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So in here, like purport, it says like we can serve our spiritual master with Vani and Vapu. So Vani we can serve, but Vapu the chance comes very less, Maharaj, and that is what sometimes we feel like we are so far away from our spiritual master. So how to keep the relationship like with our Guru Maharaj and keep serving him. So how to do that?
You can write. You can always write. If he answers, that's nice. If he doesn't answer, that's also nice. You get the benefit.
You cannot write, Maharaj. No email, no contact, no nothing.
Yeah, you can write. You write. You send it to me, and I'll send it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I have the connection, and I make connections between devotees like that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
I don't even read the letter. I just take it and forward it. That's all.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, you send it to me, and
Okay.
I can forward it.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
But spiritual master is in the heart. You can also pray.
Yeah.
You can also find his different programs that he preaches. He's giving many classes. You can also do that.
Yeah. Yes, Maharaj. Yeah. Thank you so much, Maharaj. There is one more question on the chat box.
Okay. Is that by Mamata? Mamta?
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your valuable association every week. It is motivating us so much. So Maharaj, last week I was trying to ask you a question, but somehow I couldn't. So when you spoke about Bali Maharaj and Vaman Dev Avatar, so Maharaj, I had this question for a few weeks that, Bali Maharaj was Prahlad Maharaj's grandson, and Prahlad Maharaj is already Mahajan, and he is also Mahajan. So he could have stopped him from going and conquering the uh, all the three worlds, and even heavenly planets, knowing that will land him in trouble, or knowing that it is not right. Why he didn't stop him from doing that, Maharaj? I was just thinking.
Bali Maharaj took shelter under Sukaracharya. He accepted him as his spiritual master. Although Prahlad Maharaj was his grandfather, he accepted Sukaracharya as his spiritual master, and Sukaracharya, guided by Bali, gave him the power like that.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't work under the guidance of Prahlad Maharaj. He worked under the guidance of Sukaracharya.
Oh.
And Bali, although Prahlad Maharaj was the king of the demons, doesn't say why he didn't try to, if your spiritual master is giving you one thing, and it's a feature of the demons and the demigods to always be in contention. They're always fighting. Goes on eternally. If it's not, Bali happened to be his good quality was he was very much inclined to the Brahminical class. He worshipped the Brahmins, he served the Brahmins. He did everything to please the Brahmins. And because of that, he was powerful.
Yeah. Thank you, Maharaj. I like that when you said that he had taken Shukracharya as spiritual master. So yeah, that makes sense to me. Thank you so much, Maharaj.
Thank you.
For your association.
We have a question. We have a question from Gail. So
Yeah, Gaurangi Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Your name is Gaurangi?
Yes, some people know me as that. It's like a pet name. Anyway, when you were answering Shamagori Mataji's question, you were saying that she could pray to her guru. I guess because, guru is in her heart. And so I was trying to reconcile that with the fact that, yes, guru is Krishna for us, but at the same time, we also understand that guru is not Krishna in all respects. He's not like omniscient, he's not omnipotent, And so if we pray to guru in the heart, how can we be assured that he is actually hearing our prayer if he's not, literally like Krishna in all respects? He's not omniscient. He only knows what Krishna tells him. So
Krishna will tell him that this person is praying to you. He'll find out. The guru is worshipped. The guru is worshipped on the same level as one worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's mentioned. So to pray to the Lord, we do that. Pray to the spiritual master, we can do that. The spiritual master is present in his picture. You stand before the picture of one spiritual master and pray. You'll, if your prayers are sincere, there will be reciprocation, no doubt.
I wonder if it works the same way for others that you might not be initiated by, but that you have some level of faith in.
You're trying to put the spiritual master in the material context, and therefore making all these adjustments won't really give you the understanding. The Lord is in the heart, and the Lord is directing, and therefore whatever the spiritual master needs to guide his disciples, he does it. And Krishna will inspire that spiritual master.
Does that apply to Shiksha gurus also?
It applies to anyone who's in a position of a representative of Krishna. If you're representing Krishna, really, truly, then you are directly getting information from Krishna on how to engage in your devotional service and how to help others in their devotional service.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not, if you're looking at it materially, you think, well, he's not here personally, or he doesn't know everything. That's a material calculation. That's all it is.
Okay. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances of Guru Srila Prabhupada. Maharaj, I have a question. Maharaj, you said that there were some devotees who were not initiated by Srila Prabhupada, but they were still connected to him. So my question is like, I am not initiated yet, because for my Guru Maharaj there is long waiting, and I'm still waiting for my initiation. So sometimes I feel if something happens to me before initiation, and if I'm not able to take initiation from him in this life, so in that case, will only heart connection to him help me for my further journey? Because in that case, I won't be connected to him officially. Like I won't be connected to disciplic
Yeah,
success.
but it's understood and it's also written, real initiations in the heart.
Okay. Okay.
Real initiations in the heart. And there have been many examples of that. If you give your heart to a person who is in the representative of Krishna in the role of a spiritual master, that's your spiritual master. The initiation formal makes the vow consummated and formalizes it, connects one to the parampara, but still, initiation's in the heart. I'll give you an example. There was one person who was aspiring for initiation from one disciple, one spiritual master. And then she met this other spiritual master who had a terminal disease. So she served him. She gave her heart to him. And then he left the planet. And so now she was feeling, well, that person is actually my spiritual master, but I never got initiation. So then I spoke to another person, another spiritual master who gave her initiation. And he said to me clearly that I'm not her real spiritual master. Her real spiritual master is that person who left the planet. He is, and that's actually a fact. That's actually a fact. But he was just connecting her to the parampara and also guiding her as a representative for her spiritual master. Because, you know, materially, things are arranged in a certain way, but spiritually, there's no material arrangements that needs to be made.
Okay.
So you see, so based on your hypothetical situation, you said if you don't get a chance to get initiated, of course that's hypothetical. I don't know why you would think like that, but anyway.
Because no, I was thinking life is so temporary, like anything might happen anytime. So
Well, then if you're actually dedicated your life to serving that person, then that's your spiritual master. Prabhupada is our Shiksha Guru for each and every devotee in the movement, and the Diksha Guru for a few. So we also have a direct connection with Prabhupada through his instructions like that. But that direct connection is executed through our spiritual master.
Yes.
Therefore, all spiritual masters in this movement are meant to be representatives of Srila Prabhupada. In the sense that we're preaching what Prabhupada preached, we're teaching what Prabhupada taught, like that. If we're preaching something different than what Prabhupada has given us, then we become useless or asara. So your spiritual master has to give you not only his guidance, but his guidance in the form of what Srila Prabhupada is giving us as a society for guiding each and every devotee.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Thank you so much for giving your association regularly, Maharaj. We are very, very fortunate.
I hope I can attend your initiation.
Oh. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Please bless me and please keep blessing all of us. Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, Maharaj, there is one more question in the chat.
Okay, let me see that. So you can have a spiritual master in your heart that doesn't connect you to the parampara. I think you're twisting things a little bit around here. Guru-disciple relationship is eternal. You're still connected to the parampara like that, because if that spiritual master is coming in that same line, then you're connected.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. I do have one more question if you have time, Maharaj.
Yay, yes.
Yeah, I was just trying to, I was muted, so you didn't hear my question. I was just trying to confirm, because when you said that it's by formal initiation that you get connected to the parampara, I was thinking that, if you have a spiritual master in your heart, but you haven't been formally initiated, then technically you're not connected to the parampara.
Just remember one thing, the formal initiation is the consummation of what's in the heart. Even if you get initiated formally and it's not in the heart, you're not initiated.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so therefore, if you're initiated in the heart, then you are connected to the parampara.
In the heart means full dedication, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and you. This is Susanna. I would just like to thank you for this wonderful lecture. And this is what kind of made me think to literally to ask for initiation now. So I will do everything for that if you give me your blessings for this. Thank you.
If one is serious about initiation, one will do everything that is required. But if we have some conditions, and that means we're not fully surrendered. If we make our own conditions, then that's not guru-disciple relationship. Guru-disciple relationship means one has to come as an empty glass with nothing in there and be ready to be filled by the instructions of the spiritual master. If we're not, then the whole process of aspiring is to get us to that stage. But if we still have certain things in our life that is causing us not to surrender, then we have to work on that until it's no longer there.
Thank you.
Any initiation means, blank slate. That means I have complete faith. My ideas are not important. It's what the spiritual master wants. But we can't do that because we're still attached. And because we're still attached, we haven't come to the point of full surrender yet. So if one can at least, say that I'll chant 16 rounds every day and follow the 4 regulative principles for the rest of my life, then one is eligible to take initiation. Those 4 regulative principles are not optional.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for this lecture on Fridays. It's beautiful to join.
Okay, keep going.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Okay, Lalitangi. You had another question, right?
Yeah, Harik, thank you so much, Maharaj, for your time. So I was thinking that, after initiation, we are tested how we are situated in practicing the vows. So when everything is going good, it's easy. But when there are some tough times and tough circumstances, we need to, be on the path. So especially you are spiritual masters like you have faced those tough times when Srila Prabhupada wound out his pastimes and when you had to take over and so much ups and downs. So would you like to share anything about that, how there were tests and how you were able to overcome that and stay fixed in the vows of initiation?
It was easy. I never had any doubts from the very beginning. But I can tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody. No, it's not a secret. It is a secret, just like Krishna says. This knowledge is the most secret of all secrets. Why does he say that and then explains it? He calls it a secret, but he explains it because those who are not ready can't hear the secret. Although they can hear the words, they can't understand. That's why it's a secret. So the secret is make chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra the most important thing in your life. That's the secret. And along with that, service to the Vaishnavas. But the whole Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, when we keep that foremost, then everything becomes natural, clear. Okay, that's the secret. Keep the holy name foremost. That means chant your japa as early as you can, given your circumstances. Always put the holy name first. And chant with a desire to, please Krishna. Chant with as much attention as you can bring about. Avoid the wrong mentality in chanting. The wrong mentality is the strong desire to finish so I can go on to something else. Yeah. Oh, if we keep that foremost, then everything else becomes what we say. There's still challenges, but we're equipped to deal with the challenges. Keep it covered. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
My obeisances to you and to the family.
Our humble obeisances to you, Maharaj.
I'll miss your son's kirtan.
We are made of your blessings, Maharaj.
Is he still playing kirtan regularly?
Not much, Maharaj. I will tell him that you asked him. He's in school now.
Yeah, it's now it's the time where devotees don't get together as a group anymore as much as we used to. So you can have kirtan in the family. That's nice.
Mm. Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna Maharaj, there is one more question, I think.
Okay, I think I see it.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So when do we know we are ready to take initiation? I know this is important for my spiritual progress, but can I maintain it for 30 or 40 years more? We never know when the situation changes. The situation may change, but we should never give up our chanting of 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles. That's all. Those things can never give up. We may change our service, we may change our material situation, or we might find ourselves in a more difficult situation for practice. But we should always keep those initiation vows, 4 regulative principles, 16 rounds.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much. How do we know we are ready? We never feel like we are up to the mark, or at least I personally never feel like my sadhana is good enough or my practice is up to the mark. So how
Well, that's the feeling of a true disciple. They never feel like they're ready. But at one point, we have to understand that I have to make that step. So therefore, we should also speak with others and get their advice. What do you think? I'm ready for initiation or not? Our future God brothers and sisters, or just senior devotees? We can take help and support from others to help us understand if we're ready to take that.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Your classes are very, very precious. Thank you so much for giving us your association. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Shama Gori, and we'll see you. I guess we'll be back next Friday for the next session, but may all the devotees keep well. This coronavirus is not abating in many areas. It's still very strong, and in some places it's growing stronger. So keep your health strong, take the proper precautions, take the proper health requirements, get plenty of exercise, and get fresh air. Don't stay in the house all the time. If you get out, go out for a walk, stay healthy, do exercises, chant, like that. And always remain free from anxiety, because anxiety causes disease. Okay, thank you. And
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you so much for your blessings.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you so much, Maharaj, for your association. Now we can end the call here. Thank you so much all for joining. So Vancham Kaltarubheshya Kripa Sindhu Evcha Patita Nam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Anant Koti Vaishnavande ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. His Holiness Swami Maharaj ki jai.